The teachings of the Upanishad are profound but often difficult to grasp. In this video, we'll explore the timeless wisdom of the principal Upanishad through short, simple stories. Each story reveals a core teaching in a way that's easy to understand, even for those who are new to spiritual ideas. Once, an old man quietly planted a mango tree in a public park. Curious people laughed and asked, "You'll never eat its fruits. Why waste your time?" He smiled and replied, "Someone planted trees for me too. I'm planting this for those who come after me." This simple act of selflessness holds the essence of the Isha Upanishad. It teaches that everything moving in this world is wrapped in the divine. When we stop living just for ourselves and see the same self in all, we live in harmony. The Upanishad reminds us that the one eternal self is inside everything and also outside everything. A wise person sees the self in all beings and all beings in the self. And in that deep connection, there is no sorrow. When rituals and ego fall away, the realization of this one self brings peace and freedom. Now imagine a young musician asking his teacher, "Sometimes I play better than I know. Where does that come from?" The teacher gently says, "You are not creating the music. The music is flowing through you. You are the instrument, not the source." This captures the heart of the Ken Upanishad. It begins by asking, who sends forth the mind? Who powers our speech, our eyes and ears? The answer is surprising. It's not something outside, but the self within. The unseen presence behind all our senses and actions is the same Brahman. It is the eye behind the eye, the ear behind the ear, and the mind behind the mind. When we realize this truth, we stop searching outside and turn inward. Liberation comes when we know that Brahman alone is real. Let's move to a young graduate who had two job offers. One was easy and paid well, but didn't interest him. The other was tough, paid less, but aligned with his passion. He chose the second. Years later, he invented a life-saving medicine. Had he chosen the easier path, he may have gained money, but lost his true purpose. This is exactly what the Katha Upanishad teaches through the story of Nachiketa and the god of death, Yam. It says life constantly gives us two options, the pleasant, called Prey, and the good, called Shreya. The pleasant may satisfy for a moment, but only the good leads to real joy. The Upanishad emphasizes that the soul is immortal. The self doesn't die with the body. By choosing the path of inner wisdom, one discovers that their real identity is the eternal Brahman. That's why it says, Tat Tvam Asi. Thou art that. Now let's transition to a deeper question of life and energy. One day, a child asked her father, "What makes my toy move?" He answered, "Batteries." Then she asked, "What makes me move?" The father went silent, realizing the depth of her question. The Prashna Upanishad answers the child's question. It teaches that everything comes from two principles, matter and life energy, called Rai and Pran. Among them, Pran is supreme. It's the life force that powers all beings. Without Pran, nothing functions. The Upanishad explains how Pran splits into 5 vital energies in the body. It also speaks of Om, the sacred syllable, as a doorway to the self. When we meditate on this life force and recognize the self hidden in all, we go beyond karma and reach liberation. Now picture a depressed man who kept attending motivational talks, reading books, and joining retreats. Every time he felt good for a few days, but soon returned to the same habits. One day, he met a saint who, without uttering a word, simply placed his hand on the man's heart. And the man realized, nothing changes unless the change comes from within. This is what the Mundaka Upanishad boldly states. It divides knowledge into two types, the lower and the higher. Lower knowledge includes rituals, books, and outer efforts. But true transformation comes only through higher knowledge, the knowledge of the self. The famous image of two birds on a tree explains it well. One bird eats the fruits, enjoying and suffering. The other silently watches. These two are the individual soul and the higher self. When we stop identifying with the one who suffers and recognize the silent witness within, we find real peace. By knowing the self, one becomes fearless and free. Let's meet a woman who lived in three worlds: one in dreams, full of confusion, one in waking, full of work and stress, and one in deep sleep, where there was nothing. But once, during deep meditation, she experienced something beyond all three: a state of still, silent awareness. It changed everything. The Mandukya Upanishad explains this very experience. It reveals that the syllable Om includes all states: waking, dreaming, deep sleep, and a fourth state, Turi, which is pure consciousness. Turiya is not a state of doing or thinking, but simply being. When we realize that we are this pure, unchanging awareness, we are no longer trapped in the ups and downs of life. We become free. Now move on to a beautiful story of a boy peeling an onion to find its center. After many layers, he found nothing more to peel. He asked his mother, "Where is the real part? Why can't I peel it?" She smiled. "You can't. Because this one doesn't open. It's whole." That's what the Taittiriya Upanishad explains using the concept of five kosh or layers. These are the physical body, energy, mind, intellect, and bliss. Most people live on the outer layers, but when we go inward, we reach the blissful core, the self. And beyond even that is Brahman, truth, knowledge, and infinity. Realizing this inner self as Brahman brings unshakable joy. Let's put it another way. A man buys a brand new laptop, excited by its amazing features and beautiful look. But until the software runs, it does nothing. In the same way, the universe is just a shell without the self within. The Aitareya Upanishad explains this with a grand vision. In the beginning, there was only the self. From this self, everything was created: the elements, the gods, and finally humans. The text teaches that man is the crown of creation, not out of pride, but because only in a human body can the self be fully realized. When we understand that this Atman is in all beings, we see unity behind diversity. And with that vision, we become free. Now imagine sipping salty water from many cups. The cups may look different, but the taste is the same. That's how the self is, one essence in many forms. The Chandogya Upanishad beautifully teaches this. It tells the young Shvetketu that everything, sky, earth, fire, sun, moon, even our breath, is made of the same essence, and that essence is Brahman. The famous teaching Tat Tvam Asi means you are that. You are not separate from this vast universe. You are the same truth that lives in all. Meditation on this oneness leads to deep peace and realization. Now let's visit a person who stripped away all his labels: male, doctor, husband, artist, friend. One by one, he removed every identity. At last, he looked at a blank card and asked, "Now who am I?" This is the core question of the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. Through powerful dialogues and deep reflection, it guides seekers to remove all false identities. The self is not this or that. It is beyond name and form. Using the method of neti neti, not this, not this. The Upanishad takes us inward to the pure self. It declares boldly, this self is Brahman. By realizing this, a person gains immortality. Truth, non-violence, and generosity are the natural qualities of one who has seen this truth. Finally, move on to the story of a child who stared at a spinning toy. Why does it spin so fast? The grandfather took a matchstick and touched the center. This is why. The outer spins, but the center stays still. That's the secret, he said. Stillness powers the spin. This gentle image mirrors the teaching of the Shvetashvatara Upanishad. It brings together devotion and deep knowledge. The universe, it says, is like a spinning wheel driven by Maya. But at the center is Shiv, the Supreme Self, unmoving and eternal. This Upanishad teaches that when we realize the divine is not separate from us but is our own inner self, we merge with that truth. Ishwar is not far away. He lives in our heart, as stillness, as light, as bliss. Knowing this brings liberation. So these are the voices of the Upanishad. Different stories, but the same message. The self is one. It is in you and in everyone. And by discovering this truth, we find the real joy that never fades.